How's it going, YouTube? Happy Saturday. At least I hope it's a happy Saturday for you wherever and whenever you're at. For me, it's technically Friday, but semantics. It is what it is. Anyway, I've got the camera facing me today, so you know I'm talking probably something political, because unless the weather's crappy, normally I have the camera facing outward so you can see what I'm seeing, because I think overall most people prefer to watch the videos where they can see what's happening outside the truck versus staring at the person holding the steering wheel. But some of you might think I'm handsome, so here I am today. There's the joke of the video right there. Anyway, I was just finished up my shower break here, and I'm on the last leg of my run to finish out the week here. And I was watching a video from Mother Trucker News talking about another trucking strike, because someone sent into him basically throwing down a challenge and a gauntlet saying, hey, you should ask and tell all of the truckers in America to shut down for a week or shut down for a month so we can really get our point across that America needs us, so that freight rates go back up, so that we can make the money we need to make in order to, pay our bills, support our families, and be able to operate our businesses with healthy margins, which at its face value, not a bad idea. If all of America's truckers did go on strike, it would take less than a week for some real change to start happening. But it would be very short-term change, because as Mother Trucker News went on throughout the entirety of his video, and I'll put his video in my description so you can go and watch and see what he said and then compare that to what I'm saying. One of his core points is that if rates go up even a little bit, truckers who either are on strike or would be on strike will go back to work. Because if they're in an area of the nation where rates might not be so great or be very healthy, if those rates suddenly get healthy, they're going to capitalize on those rates and get right back to work, get right back to making money so they can take care of their needs financially. And it's really hard to say boo about that, because let's be real here, there is no union for America's owner-operators and for the vast majority of America's truck drivers. We are non-union, so we don't have a massive organization that's going to take care of making sure that our bills are being paid while we're on strike, to make sure that what we need addressed actually gets addressed. So we don't have paid vacation, we don't have guaranteed time off or paid time off whenever we're stopped, whenever we're not in motion with freight on the truck. We're not making money. That's just the way it works for American trucking. That's just the nature of the beast. If you're an owner-operator, you know this, you understand this. This is why it's important for us to have savings, to have money for a rainy day, to have money in a maintenance fund, so that when things happen, our bills get paid, our needs are met, and we have flexibility to endure the hard times, to get through the rough patches, to endure the tough sailing, as it were. And even if there was to be a trucking strike that was called for Monday, for example, a lot of us would still go to work. I probably would, because to be perfectly honest, I cannot afford to shut down long enough for my voice to be heard. That's just the nature of the beast. I am not in a position right now where I can afford to stop working. I can afford to stop working for a very small period of time. And once that small period of time is expired, I've got to go back to work, or I'm bankrupt, or I'm out of business. I'm in debt. I've got people coming and asking, hey, you owe us money on your truck and trailer loans. You got to pay this bill, you got to pay that bill. We're going to repossess all your stuff. All right, well, okay, back to work it is then. And the reality is there's a lot of drivers in a very similar situation, because the end of 2022 was very unkind to trucking as a whole, because fuel was well over $5 a gallon in very busy parts of the nation. It didn't go back downward, sorry, my nose itching here, until essentially into 2023, had some okay-ish, sort of, meaning it was less than $4 a gallon overall fuel prices for a little while in the spring and in the summer here. But now that we've got fall coming up here, and because the chickens from that have finally been coming home to roost, fuel is going back up. And it's going to be not fun again to close out 2023 because, again, the energy policy from the current presidential administration, aka the Biden administration, aka Bidenomics, it's not working. It's going to cause prices to go up across the board, and rates are not going to go up fast enough to cover the increase in fuel costs. So you've got to understand where to operate, when to operate, and also you've got to have fuel discounts available to you. Like, for example, I'm about to close the deal on my actual fuel card with Pilot, so I'll have Pilot on my roster of fuel stations to hit, along with my RXO fuel card, which gives me good discounts at a lot of TAs and Petros, and also a pretty good guaranteed discount at Love's. So I'll have the big three trucking chains. I'll have fuel discounts in some capacity at all the big three. Now you might ask, why am I not looking for cheaper fuel at, non-major truck brand fuel stops like Speedway or Quick Trip, of all the different flavors of how they spell quick, or Circle K or Casey's or whatever the case may be. And the simple fact of the matter is that even if you're prioritizing fueling at the smaller brand, the smaller chain, the smaller footprint truck stops, you're going to end up, as far as I can tell, on a pure numbers basis, you're going to end up paying about the same overall month to month in terms of your fuel and the other benefits that these truck stops give you, like showers. Now, if you're one of those truckers who likes to be dirty, wallow in your own filth, and smell like a corpse, or you're just allergic to bathing in some capacity, yeah, if you're allergic to bathing and you don't mind being an absolute walking biohazard in every place that you go to, yeah, you'll save money, because the average cost of a shower right now on a cash basis at the big three truck stop chains is about $16, because it's higher at most TAs and Petros for whatever reason, because their showering experience definitely does not justify the price point. And the average cost for Love's, I think, is about $15. Some cases it's $16, some cases it's maybe you get $14. But when I started trucking in 2019, the cash price for a shower at Love's was $12, and it was that way into 2020. But then everything went up price-wise, and so now it's $16, $15 on average, maybe $14 if you get lucky. Same thing with Pilot. Pilot averages about $15 in cash for a shower. And if you shower once a day, like I do, and if you're on the road 7 days a week, like I sometimes am, that's 7 showers. 7 times 15, well, do the math there. If 15 times 5 or 6 is 90, hopefully my math is right there, could be wrong, but yeah, I think it's 90. Then you add on the extra 15, it's $105 a week in showers that you're essentially purchasing. But if you're fueling at the big three truck stop chains, you get the free shower. So you're saving $105 a week by fueling at the big three, because you get the premium monthly credits, meaning you have that month of free showers. In Pilot is called Shower Power. At Love's, it's platinum level, which means 1,000 gallons at each. Essentially, if you get 1,000 gallons a month at Love's or Pilot, or both if you're insane, and a running team, obviously, you'll get guaranteed free showers at either chain, Pilot, Flying J, and Love's, for the next month. Which, that's a massive savings if you shower every day. That's a big deal. If you shower every other day, okay, great. Now you're saving $45 a week by only showering 4 days out of 7. Okay, all right, you do the numbers however you do them. But if you have the fuel cards that give you the discounts, that will offset the higher price at the pump, because when you're paying at the big three, you're paying for the shower, you're paying for all the other services you get with that truck stop chain. That's just the nature of the beast. There's no way to avoid that. Like the cost of doing business is being baked into the cost per gallon. And yes, some of the fuel cards you can get have amazing discounts, like the RXO fuel card. If you're a TA Petro enthusiast, the RXO fuel card has some really nice discounts at some of the TAs and Petros in some really critical freight markets. So if you're in and out of areas like Memphis, maybe Chicago or Indianapolis or Dallas, Fort Worth, and you're hitting TAs and Petros, you might be getting a very substantial amount off per gallon, which that's a big deal when you can save a lot of money per fueling. Now at Love's, it's only a fixed rate of 20 cents off per gallon with the RXO fuel card. But still, that's a guaranteed discount. You buy 100 gallons, you just save $20. There's a cost of one shower right there. And if you're fueling every day or every other day, all those costs are going to add up to the point where you're essentially going to be breaking even in terms of your extraneous services versus what you're paying for at the pump. So that's one way to look at how to manage your business better. Okay, what is the actual value for fueling at the smaller chains versus larger chains? Because Speedway, Circle K, and in some cases, some Quick Trips, they don't have showers. And there's no guarantee that if you have a rewards program with those chains, that they offer an opportunity to get those showers for some sort of points program redemption. I have no idea. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I really don't know. Another thing to be mindful of is, okay, which states are you operating in that are having just awful luck with rates? If you're going to California, you're shooting yourself in the foot straight up. You are literally inflicting upon yourself wounds financially that you could avoid by just not going to California. Yeah, you might be getting $4,000 to go from Chicago to Los Angeles, but as soon as you get to Los Angeles, now you're dealing with lower speed limit. You're also dealing with much higher cost per gallon, at least $1 more per gallon in California than any of the states around California last time I checked. And you're also dealing with the aggravation of operating in California to begin with. And there's just no good reason to operate in California unless you live there. And if you live in California right now as a trucker, you have my condolences. No thank you. I have not been to California since 2019. And the closest I got to California was back in March when I was in Oregon. And I was down, I forget where I was in, but I was on I-5 just a little ways north of the California state line. And I was giving serious thought to going down into California to pick up on a load that would take me down to the LA Valley and then grab a load from there to then head back east towards the Midwest. Decided against it because I didn't want to deal with California's crap. And I found a load that paid less, but ultimately saved me money because I didn't go to California. Another key state to avoid in so many ways is Texas, because Texas, you can't get a good rate in or out of Texas right now. Now, bear in mind, it is September 16th, 2023. So if you're watching this video in November of 2024, somehow, the story may be completely different. Texas could be way worse, could be way better. I have no idea. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see the future yet. Maybe one day I can. Who knows? But I have not been to Texas in months, and I avoid Texas because there's no good rate into Texas, and there's also no good rate out of Texas, so I avoid Texas. Yes, the fuel might be cheaper in Texas, but the rates in Texas are not good enough from what I've been seeing and where I've been looking. Key points, because I don't use the dad board. The rates in Texas, into and out of Texas, they don't justify whatever cost savings there might be in Texas because of lower fuel prices. Florida's the same way. Like I've said this a bunch of times in previous videos, it's very easy to go into Florida on a good rate. Getting out of Florida, good luck, because it's probably going to be another crapshoot unless you get lucky or pick up a short hop into Georgia or Mississippi or Alabama or Louisiana or some neighboring state where you can grab better paying freight after only taking a small marginal loss on a short hop out of Florida, you're not going to have a good time. And I've been to Florida enough this year to have learned that lesson more than once the hard way. So if you're going to Florida on the regular and you don't have a contracted rate where you're guaranteed to get good money in and out, avoid Florida, avoid Texas. Don't go to the West Coast at all. Don't go to New York City. Don't go to New England, because the fuel prices in all those regions are not good. And the freight rates to those regions might be pretty good, but the rates coming away from those regions are not. Like, I was recently in Pennsylvania, and it was very difficult to get decent paying freight to Chicago, or even to Indiana, or even to Ohio. Like, I had to get lucky. I had to put the screws to my friends at the brokers to get some decent rate to make it worth my time and really guarantee that I had a healthy operating margin. That's just the nature of the beast. The East Coast and West Coast extremities of the nation are not healthy markets for your expenses, for your budget, for your bottom line, for your operating margins. They are very dangerous. They are unhealthy. California especially, because California probably will see $6 to $8 diesel before the end of this year, possibly even before Halloween. So if you're going to California, again, my condolences, but if you can avoid going to California, don't go there. You will save money by operating just about anywhere but California. Even going to Florida is better than going to California. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Same is true with New Mexico and Arizona. You might have good rates going to those states, but there's no good guarantee of a good rate coming out of those states. Like, those are areas that right now they're just not good markets. It's just the way it is. Now, granted, there's some nuts and bolts that I don't see because, again, I don't have the dad board. I don't see all the information I used to see when I did have the dad board through my last carrier. But I just know that going to certain areas is not going to make life good for me in terms of my operating margins. And how I'm saving money, how I'm making money, is by either A, grabbing lightweight freight at an okay rate, heavy freight at a good rate, or staying out of questionable markets where I might end up averaging less than my $2 per mile minimum target. In and out, plus deadhead. Because if I can stay above $2 a mile on average, I think I'm going to be okay, but it's going to be real tough to sustain that if I'm operating in expensive regions. Now, not every trucker has the advantage. I live in the Chicagoland area. Chicago is an extremely healthy freight market because it is a massive transshipment point for the nation, because you've got most of the major interstates all connect through Chicago. All of the Class 1 railroads in North America run to and through Chicago. You've got 3 airports bringing air freight into Chicago. There's a lot of freight into and out of Chicago, so it's sustaining okay rates. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good, but they're okay enough, and you can operate in and around Chicago at an okay rate and still meet whatever minimums you might have to guarantee that your bills get paid, your family gets fed, and you still have a roof over your head when you're not on the road. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. But a lot of these lessons are learned the hard way, and there's a driver out there, courtesy of Mother Trucker News, saying we got to go on strike at the end of September, so people can take us seriously. We got to get 3.5 million truckers to go on strike and block interstates and block roads and do all this other crazy stuff so that rates will go back up. It's not going to be that simple, and Mother Trucker News goes into this better, I would say, because if you've watched me to this point, I'll just go ahead and summarize. But the cost of fuel impacts our cost of transport, and if we have to get more money out of the brokers, that means they got to get more money out of their shippers, which means they got to get more money out of whoever makes the goods they're trying to ship, which means somebody has to charge the end user more money in order to make all those other elements line up. So no matter what happens, who gets screwed? The American consumer, the end user of everything that we move, tends to be the American consumer. Yeah, a lot of us are doing, stuff that's going to end up in Canada or Mexico or wherever else, but for the vast majority of North American truckers who operate in the USA, the end user of the goods that they're transporting is going to be in some capacity an American consumer, whether it's a company consuming the good that we're moving, or it's the actual individual consumer purchasing a good or a product that we transported in a store somewhere. Somehow, some way, it's all going to end up smacking right back into you and me in the stores. That's just the way it works. There is no way to avoid that. And if we shut down for a month, okay, great, rates will go right back up. But all the cutthroat drivers, like me, who can't afford to stay shut down that long, will go back to work. We'll capitalize on those rates, and as soon as everyone goes back to work, all those high rates go right back down. It's going to be a cycle, up and down, up and down, up and down. And the hard reality is that the folks who cannot figure out how to operate at a healthy margin will go out of business. That's just the nature of the beast. This is dog eat dog. This is capitalism distilled. If you cannot find a way to operate in a healthy capacity, you will go out of business. And if that's who you are, I really do feel bad for you. I hope you don't go out of business, but the likelihood of you going out of business because of a poor operational methodology is high. So you've got to find a way to get educated about where to book freight, where not to book freight, what fuel cards to get in order to maximize your savings at the pump, how you can save money elsewhere through points programs at the big three truck stop chains, because those points, they do pay. I use my points a lot on a weekly basis, so I'm saving money whenever I go to Love's, without question, whether it's at the pump or in the shop or in the store. I'm saving money somehow every day at Love's. That's just the way it is. Okay? And I'm sure I've saved thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars by this point, just by mostly shopping at Love's for a wide variety of needs. But I'm getting on a big old tangent here. It's kind of really detracting from the core point I wanted to make, which is striking is not going to get the problem solved. Really, it's more complicated than that. Honestly, what we need is a sane energy policy in the U.S., because as soon as diesel prices go way back down to ideally a sub $3 range and get DEF back down to sub $2 where it belongs, get diesel and DEF back down to a sustainable level, meaning under $3 per gallon. That's going to ease a lot of pricing issues and a lot of transport issues on a national level. But it starts with sound energy policy that will enable domestic production of oil so we can get it from American wells and fields to American refineries and then into American pumps and then into American tanks. Fuel tanks, not Abrams tanks. Key distinction there. Because if our transport costs go down, that means we can sustain and even accept lower rates per mile, which means that the costs through the entire chain decrease. And as long as the rich fat cats at the top don't skim more off the top for themselves, things can get pretty easy pretty quick for a lot of folks. And with that being said, I think I'll finish it off there before I get too much rambling. So thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way through my video, I do really appreciate it, and I will see you down the road.